Yes, hey,
Hey, Chris.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, everything going well?
Yeah, no, going good, thanks.
Good. I have not used this software yet, so I don't know if it how this is going to work. But at least you have you and I, so that's something. So good. Um, let's see who else is here. Um, let's see if anyone else will go. See if there's a way to broadcast this live to tell people that we're here. Let's see. Oh, it looks like it's on my Facebook. So there we go. So let me tweet this. Um, your our top 5 episode um, will go out this week.
Okay.
So yeah, I've found I've just gotten really lucky, and a lot of people have wanted to talk to me. And so I'm getting a backlog of episodes, so which is good.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yeah. I
Yeah.
I, I started listening to the one with Maureen, the,
Hmm.
the, the, the email link you sent, but then it was like late at night and I only listened to a few minutes, but I keep meaning to go back and listen
Hmm.
to the rest of it. I've just been
Yeah,
a bit busy.
it was a lot of fun. She was really, really sweet, and it was. I was very happy to have her on that, and kind of she had she was able to she had some great stories, so it was a lot of fun. Good.
Yeah, I'll give it a listen
Hmm.
later.
So talk to me. Tell me, what do you think of the song? What do you think of the link? What do you think of the first um, single?
Um, First time I listened to it, and like I watched it with the video, and it came as a bit of a surprise. What day was it? Thursday or Wednesday? I can't remember now. But I'd had like such a busy day. I hadn't been on Facebook or Twitter or anything the whole day. And I get home and I open Twitter, and you know all the all my all the Bruce fans I'm following have gone berserk. Um, I'm thinking, what's going on here? And then I noticed there's a new song, so I gave it I followed the YouTube link and
Yeah.
gave it a listen with the video. My first impressions, I was a bit cautious. It
Okay.
seemed a bit, especially with the video, it seemed a bit Bon Jovi, um, and I thought it was maybe. I was worried it was a little bit too sentimental. Um, but then the second time I listened to it, it seemed um, it was better. And since then, each time it's like the typical Bruce song. You hear things, well, you don't hear things the first time, and then you start to hear these like little what's the word for it? It starts to make more sense the more times you listen to it.
Yeah. Very nice. I see. Hey, Stephen, how you doing, buddy?
Hello,
So
how are you,
Stephen,
Jesse?
Good. Good. Chris, meet Stephen. Stephen, meet Chris.
Hey, hello
right?
there.
So we're just getting started. I don't know how many people are going to join us. So, but for now, I have some things I want to read. What the plan is that I'm going to take this into an audio and release it on the feed. But for now, Stephen, what are your thoughts on the song, Stephen?
I don't know where to start. I mean, it felt to me like it was very familiar in the best of ways, right? That
Mm-hmm.
we Bruce has been doing a lot of talking over the past few years, in a variety of ways, with the book and Broadway. And then he did Western Stars, which was, beautiful. I loved Western Stars, but this felt like a bit of a homecoming in a way to hear the E Street Band. That was my first reaction.
Yeah. And you wrote a wonderful email to me, and that kind of went into the things, and I've got it. But you really talked about that. You think this is in a lot of ways him, not morbidly, but just the idea that this is my words, not you. There's less road in front of him than there is behind him, and he's kind of addressing that to a little bit. Do you, as you've listened to it more, do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do. I think I said this to you in my email, but the thing that I've listened to Western Stars a lot, and the thing that strikes me is that album begins with a hitchhiker, on the road with the world out in front of him, and ends with an older person as the leaves are falling from the trees on a dark road, ending up in a parking spot.
Yeah.
The idea that the time for travel and the time for journeying is coming to an end. And I think that's what a lot of his last projects have been about. It's been about trying to make sense of the journey that he's been on. So, I mean, look, this is an unfair thing to say, but I do think that, what I'm seeing Bruce do is try to strip away some of the artifice that he's spoken to us in a variety of characters over the past 50 years. People that resemble him, but are not necessarily him. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he sees himself in the man driving the stolen car on Eldridge Avenue. Right. But that isn't him. Exactly. No. Right.
Yeah. And right. Cause he talks about that on Broadway, right? Like that, he puts on his father's clothes, he puts on this working persona, and then he makes I feel, very funny joke that this is the first time he's ever had a job where he had to be at work 5 days a week. This is, and he's, at 66, 67 when he started this. Right. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is. And here he's talking about, in this song, he's just talking about, what he tried to do over his life's work. And I don't know who the you is. I mean, I'm pretty, I guess, as a listener, I've been a little bit, I don't know, egocentric, because I think the you is me, even though it doesn't necessarily have to be. But
yeah. What do you think about that, Chris? Do you kind of feel the same way?
About how he puts himself into the songs, or
is this song, because I feel like the songs are directed to me. I have that. I feel like he's talking to me, and I think that's part of the magic of him.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I don't really, the songs that I relate to is I see myself in the song, or the song's about me. I find, and it's usually, it'd be like even one or two words that click in my head that I can relate to something that's going on with me, or
that absolutely.
And I tend to sort of make the rest of the song fit.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Even if it wasn't that, it will, and those are the ones that have the most personal meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off, Stephen. Did you have another thought to feel?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not really saying anything profound here or well thought out. It's
so well. I reached out to some people to get feedback, and Arlen Schumer, who has been on the podcast a couple of times, a pretty strong Springsteen historian. And I'm going to read you his statement, then I'd like you guys, and I want to stress, everyone has the right to their own opinion. And I respect that. I got a little bit of grief on Twitter when I said I was surprised that people were critical of the song. And from my perspective, I'm just happy that we are still getting new music from Bruce, right? But that doesn't mean everyone should love it. So let me read what Arlen had posted. He sent it to me. He also posted on his Facebook. Please, 5 days recording an entire album? No wonder the song Letter to You sounds like it was written in 5 minutes. a string of saccharine cliches that Bruce cribbed from himself with a totally forgettable, mundane melody that with nothing vocally or instrumentally standing out at all. I'm not exactly dying to hear the rest of the album. Surprise me, Bruce. Remember when your songs used to surprise us? So I actually was a little irritated when I heard that, and then I had to remind myself everyone has to have their own opinion, and they have to go through. I just will candidly say, and this is maybe because I became a huge Bruce fan like in 2002. So I do not, maybe if I had been a fan in 74, 75, I would have that sense of reverence of those early albums. And, and I don't. I mean, I certainly recognize they're great albums, but, I love Magic and I love Wrecking Ball and I love these later albums. So, any thoughts on Arlen's feelings with the understanding he's perfectly acceptable to have that kind of thought?
I think with, like I said, when I first heard it, I thought, especially looking at the video, sort of all these funny expressions and hugs and whatever, I thought, oh, this is very Bon Jovi. But as the more I listened to it, the more it became Bruce. And I think what I've learned, being a Bruce fan for 33 years, is some songs are just slow burners. Like it was only last year, but The Rising started to make sense to me. But like I said, the more times I've listened to it, the more it sort of reverberates with me. And, I've got the tune in my head now. So, yeah, it's like I said, the initial impression maybe wasn't totally favorable, but I'm getting to like it, and I'm optimistic for the rest of the LP.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought is that the man is 70 years old, right? And he's 71 years old. I don't know how much sense it makes, at least for me. And of course, as you said, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Music speaks to us in different ways, and I'm not going to judge another person's experience when they listen to a song. But for me, I don't know how helpful it is to compare the work of a 70-year-old with the work of a 30-year-old. Bruce is in a completely different place in his life. And what's been pretty amazing is watching him age and come to grips with being an older, aging artist. Bruce had enough songs, if he so wanted to, that he wrote by 1980 to release them slowly, and perform them anew and make albums for the rest of his life. But that's not the kind of artist he is, right? So he's someone that records a bunch of songs, 70, 80 songs, picks the ones that he wants, puts them on the album, and then throws the rest in a vault until he releases them on a thing like Tracks. Because what he's doing is chronicling where he is and in his life at this particular time. I don't know what it's like to be 70. I'm 39 years old, but I do know that our culture is not particularly kind to the words of aging people, right? We tend to value those artists who come on the scene when they're young. And again, I think Bruce talks about this in his own book, but even those artists who, burn out quickly, either they die young or they create a lot of art when they're young and then they go away. We don't really see a lot of art or, made by people who are this old. So I don't know.
No,
I find very,
go ahead, Chris.
Sorry. No, I said I find it very inspirational that he's continued to be creative and original up to this point. When I first became a fan in 1987, he was, I think, 38 years old. So I thought that was the end of his career. I thought, well, because pop stars don't, you expect pop stars once they're past 35, they're finished. And in those days, there wasn't rock stars, they became legacy acts, once they're in their 30s and 40s. Very few were released, I think from what I remember, were releasing anything really original. But Bruce has just carried on being original, releasing new stuff, trying new things. And I think it's very inspirational. Now he's 70 and he's still producing very original stuff, like Western stars. And I think it's to someone who's like 21 years younger than him, it gives hope for the future. Obviously, I haven't got any of the talents he has, but it gives hope that there's a future. Even when you're old, you can still be creative. You can still be productive. And it is not the end. It's not just because you reach 65 doesn't mean you put your feet up. You've still got something to give.
I can't remember who, but I just recently had a guest, and he said that when the reunion tour happened, like in 98, 99, he said, okay, this is the peak. They're going to become an oldies act. They may tour every once in a while, kind of, and nothing against like the Eagles or, someone who we're going to do a reunion show every few years, and we'll go and we'll dance the Rosalita, and we'll be happy, we'll get darkness, and, it'll be an amazing show. And no way you would have predicted that, well, okay, I'm going to get The Rising, and then I'm going to get Magic, and then I'm going to get Wrecking Ball, and then I'm going to have him on Broadway. I think is a really an interesting thought, right?
Yeah, he's always finding ways to like reinvent himself in a way, but still be Bruce. He's not in the way that someone like Madonna does it, where she completely becomes a new person, which I'm not saying is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like he's still Bruce, even though he communicates in maybe a different way, or a different fashion, but he's still still Bruce.
Yeah.
I'll also say that I think it takes a fair amount of courage actually to do what he's doing, right? To be 70 years old, to release an album that, of course, when you compare it to Born to Run, isn't going to. I mean, they're not gonna. There's no comparing the two, but that doesn't mean there still isn't some value there, and so it does take some courage to put that out.
Absolutely. We just got Donna joining us. Hey there, how you doing?
Hi.
Where, Donna?
Hi, guys. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm using this app for the very first time.
Us too, and we can hear you fine. Okay. So we're good. So welcome to the discussion. You want to kind of join us what your initial thoughts were on the song?
Yeah. Having trouble on this end hearing you guys. Okay.
We can hear you fine.
Okay, that's better. My initial thoughts on the song. That he got me with those first two lines. Lyrics speak to me first before music. So as soon as I heard the poetic man putting strange and unusual words together, I was hooked. So for me, it's very much a word-based reaction. Is as simple as a song that it is. It seems to hold a very significant thread of emotion in it. So that was my literally initial thoughts. 5 or 6 times after, the tears came, and I'm still trying to figure out if the tears were related to the video more than the song. I think that's probably
Yeah, I think
accurate
that's
for
a
me.
good point, and I'll let Chris and Stephen jump on. It's great seeing the band together, that joy, and you missed earlier, Donna. I had someone send in and a Arlen Schumer, and his feedback was, why would you take 5 days to make an album when you used to take forever? Like, we don't need that. And my thought is, because he keeps reinventing himself, and so I think the idea is, okay, we've spent 9 months making an album. What would happen if we just all get in the band and a room, and let's try to make one in 5 days? What would that energy feel like? What would that creative force feel like? And I think that's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I also I see your perspective, and I hear Arlen. I hear other people have said something in the last 24 hours similar to that, and I see both sides of it. I don't know the music details. I don't know. I don't hear things from a musician's standpoint, and a lot of criticism seems to be coming from that. Um, but I just remember when he was doing press and reading the book, time is very finite for him now, more so than it used to be. And I would hazard a guess that if something feels right, he's more likely to just go with it rather than overthink it now.
That's kind of a little bit what you were talking about, huh, Stephen? I mean, that's a different perspective, but you kind of had similar things saying about that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. There's a couple things I'd say to that. Like, he doesn't have that much time left. I actually think he's at a stage now where he's trying to figure out how to end that lifelong conversation he's been having with us. Not necessarily that he's going to retire, or not that he's not going to make any more albums, but he turned 71 in a couple of weeks. And so, he has to be thinking about, okay, how do we begin to wrap this up? And what's a nice way of doing that? Or what's a way that brings some closure on this journey that we've all been on? I'm 39. I'm younger. I came to him rather late in his career, like you, Jesse.
Yeah.
So, but a man who has at the sort of the last great rock star doesn't have anything to prove. When he is writing Darkness on the Edge of Town and Born to Run and throwing the tapes in the pool, like, his back is against the wall and it has to be perfect. Otherwise he's getting cut and no one will ever hear all the things that he has to say. At this point, he has said what he needs to say over and over and over again, and he's been a valuable voice. At this point, what he needs to say is, how do I make sense of the journey that we've all been on? I'm not going to overthink it. I've already overthought it.
So I want to hear what Chris and Donna think about that, but I want to share. He's a storyteller by far, right? We see that in these Sirius XM shows he's done, that he can tell a story, whether he's writing his autobiography, whether he's doing a Broadway show, or in these DJ sessions, he is weaving a story. So I absolutely think, as a storyteller, I don't want to end my story unfinished. Like, I will never stop producing, but I want to put a bookend to this journey and conversation we've been having. Chris, your thoughts?
Going to the, sort of the brief time that was used, needed to record the song. I don't know if was it just 5 days to record the song?
They say what I understand, and speak
Well,
up, you guys here. The whole album. They say the whole album took them 5 days. They got in the studio, and I don't know how many hours a day, but over 5 days they had recorded an album.
Well, I can see that the brief time is probably needed more by necessity than anything else. When they were like 25, they probably had all the time in the world. They didn't have families and other commitments. Now, just about all the members of the band have solo careers. They've probably got families, kids, grandkids. I'm sure it's a logistical challenge to get the whole band together at the same place, at the same time for any amount of time. So that, I consider, that they wouldn't be able to have however many weeks or months it took to record Born to Run.
Yeah.
And also, he's not going to do another Born to Run. If he did, it wouldn't. Born to Run wouldn't be Born to Run, would it? If it
exactly.
could knock them off like every 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So he's trying something different, and I'm sure, like I said already, it's very promising, and I'm sure the album's going to live up to expectations.
Yeah, Donna, how about you?
I was nodding my head so much, and for some reason I can't see Chris.
Okay.
I don't know if that's my poor signal, but Chris, I don't know who you are, but I couldn't agree with you more.
Are you Bruce fans, Donna?
Yes.
Oh,
I am.
I've got. Hi, I'm Chris from South Africa. You sent me a mug ages ago. Where's my mug?
Oh
I'm gonna get my mug.
yeah. I know
that's
who
what he's going to get the mug for. Is still very loud. Yes, and
okay.
Obviously, yes, Donna from Bruce Funds, and has I think you do have there.
Yes.
Chris is showing it. Yes, he is. Yeah. Yeah, I will.
Somebody, I can't see it.
And I think Donna has done as much to foster this family of Springsteen fans that we have as anyone. But anyway, so Donna, you were saying you were nodding your head as you were listening to Chris and Stephan talk.
Well, yeah, I think that when a person loses people around them, perhaps at a peer level, so age level or achievement wise, when your group of friends start dying, and when your parents need extensive elderly care, that the lack of time left to you is so obvious, and the live in the moment ideal, I can see it coming more and more to the forefront of someone's mind, and I don't think he has purposely made a swan song album. I do think he has said, what if my friends that I've recorded with, what if we lose someone else? Let's live in the now. Let's make what we can while we can and get it out there. He's not saying this is the last time we're ever going to be together, but what if it is? So let's just
I wanted to read Jeff Calloway, who's here in the DFW area, has been on the show a couple times. He tweeted, thinking about Letter to You, the last few years, Bruce has been looking back. The River, the second leg of that tour, his book, Broadway. I think this is the culmination of that, adding the 3 older songs too. Letter to You is about Springsteen's conversation with us. Maybe? I think we've all kind of been saying that. I do think that is what I think is a very real thing. I also don't think we should, he has not lost his mother yet physically, but emotionally in a lot of ways he has lost his mother. And seeing that, I'm sure, is poignant. I think, one of the most poignant things in the Netflix is when he does the wish and he shares about his mother fighting. I think it is, it reminds him he is thinking of this a lot.
Just this is like going off on a bit of a tangent, but going back to the Netflix show, and then he's talking about the dream he has of his dad, and he's watching himself perform on stage with his dad, and that's he says, "That's how I see you."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like, I can relate to that. When I was a kid, my dad was, he was there with James Bond or the best footballers around, or whatever. I think you always look up at you and admire your dad. I'd say my dad didn't have any sort of what's the word? There was nothing objective about him. But I'm sure that's for any kid. They see their father, as their hero, or along with their heroes. They're on the same path.
Absolutely. Stephen?
Anyway.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking about, something you were saying, Donna, about, what if this is the last time we're together? I've noticed this before, and I've been kicking around in my head. His first album is Greetings from Asbury Park, very clearly a postcard. And now we're getting a letter, right? It is, and Bruce is someone who does think in terms of bookends all the time. Born to Run begins in the morning and it ends, with an ambulance pulling away in the middle of the night. He is someone that understands, and as I said, Western Star starts with a hitchhiker and then ends with someone pulling into a parking spot. So there is a sense of closure to it. Even if I'm not saying it's the end, but you can tell him thinking about him starting to think about those sorts of things.
Yeah. I think so. I think really well said. I did want to. A lot of people tweeted, and so. There is a couple of people. Stuart Godler tweeted, "Mediocre, trite lyrics, worst opening lyric ever, big letdown, missed opportunity." And Dennis said, "A lot like many, many tracks before it, unremarkable, but just glad he's back." And we talked a little bit before you jumped on. And I think Stephen and Chris both said you can't duplicate what you've done before, and you shouldn't want to. And so I respect everyone's opinion. I just think from a different perspective, and I did end up tweeting this: ask a fan of David Bowie, ask a fan of Prince, ask a fan of Johnny Cash. Would I want new music? And the absolutely is yes. I wish I would. And so I am just thrilled at soon to be 71. You got the band back together and they're making music, and that video shows them having fun and laughing and joking with each other. And I just think, I said it was a gift, and someone said, "Oh, it's not a gift. You got to buy it." And I'm like, well, I'm using gift in a different method. I just think it's a blessing for me, especially with 2020.
Anytime a creative individual can produce something that they feel is worth sharing with someone else, as an artistic individual myself, I see that as a gift. Do you have to pay for those gifts sometimes if you appreciate it? Yeah. But I mean, it's going to be on Spotify for what, 0.01%. I mean, you don't have to necessarily buy it. So I don't feel that is exactly accurate these days. But I think that like you said, Jesse, those and Tom Petty fans, those individuals who are no longer with us, would their fans just love a crumb of mediocre, a crumb
Yeah.
of a half-finished song that maybe someone else in the band puts together and releases? I mean, the Prince estate is releasing some things. I'm not fully up on that, but it, I just how people could nitpick apart absolutely anything. There are people out there
Yeah.
who want to nitpick Born to Run, the album, and at some point you just got to go, okay, to each his own. We see things differently. I respect the musicians out there who are saying, there's a guy who stripped out all the lyrics already, all the words already, and just has replayed it with his own instruments. And he says it is exactly the same song as Land of Hope and Dreams. I listened to the track he played. I don't hear Land of Hope and Dreams, but he does, and he's adamant about his opinion.
I don't hear that at all. I don't do that at all.
Yeah, Jesse, that's one of your favorite songs. You would notice it.
Exactly. Absolutely. I would. It is by far. I did want to add on the plus side, Stephanie Phillips, who's been on the show, she is a writer, has done some wonderful comic book work, and she said, it's 2020, and we are given new Bruce. All I know is that I heard that grisly voice, and I suddenly felt a little less depressed. I loved it. And then she attached the GIF, from Blinded by the Light. Bruce is the direct line to all that is true in this shitty world. And I will tell you, Stephanie Phillips, your tweet, it actually gives me a little tears right now. That and I'm not telling anyone how they should feel, but she summed up exactly how I felt. Right? I have said, new album from Bruce in October, a new president in November, and 2020 will be a little less crappy. Sorry to put my politics in it, but that's how I feel. Yeah.
I'm tearing up a little bit too, because I feel so fortunate to have been a fan for so many decades. And
Right.
There are fans ahead of me who've been fans for much longer. And I have dear friends now who have only been fans for 12, maybe 15 years. And they're so new and they're just discovering things. And it's amazing to just see the gamut of how this man can touch people musically. It's so rare, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. And if that makes me seem simple or someone who drinks the Kool-Aid, as they like to say, bring it on. Give me the biggest gulp possible. I'll drink it down, because there's going to be days ahead when we don't have something
I really
new
agree
from him. And I'll take all he can give us.
All right,
now.
so we've been talking for a while, so I'm going to wrap it up. I don't want to overstay our welcome. Chris, any final thoughts?
No, it's. I think it helps with with Bruce releasing stuff. I've noticed here in South Africa that a sense of normality is beginning to reappear slowly. And I think there's a feeling we're on the up curve back to normality, and on a down curve with regards to COVID. And Bruce releasing something now just sort of adds to the, just that feeling of, things are getting better. So, it's like I said, the year can't get much worse. So if really, anything that happens can only be better.
Let's not
Donna, how about
tempt
you?
it.
Some final thoughts?
I would say let's not tempt it, Chris, because I can't imagine worse, and I don't want a civil war in this country. So, final thoughts. I took a look at the track names and the length of time on some of those, and I am looking forward to just eating each new track as if it's a multi-course meal. And as for this first course of this single, it's a beautiful appetizer, and if it's not the heaviest, that's
Yeah,
okay.
well said.
It should start
Stephen?
out light.
Jesse, I will echo what you said about the new album in October and a new president in November. And even if we don't get a new president in November, at least I'll have a Bruce album to help me.
Yeah.
To help, salve my broken heart.
Yeah, well said, well said. I appreciate all three of you joining me. I am excited about the new album. My hope is that we are in a place health-wise that Donna will be working to provide tickets to people who've never seen Bruce in sometime in 2021. Give my plug for Bruce Funds. Truly I think one of the kindest, nicest things that we do as a family of listeners. And so thank you for all that work. And it just, I just want to think, selfishly that Bruce said, hey, that Jesse's guy got the 5th anniversary of Set Listing Bruce. Maybe I should put a new song out just to help us celebrate that anniversary. Right? I mean, it could happen. It could be, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Give us something new to talk about. Sure, why not?
We'll wrap it up. Any of you want to? Anyone want to share your how to reach you on social media, Chris?
Twitter at Flickris, FLICKRIS. That's probably the best way. And the same on Instagram as well.
Chris is part of I have a new episode coming up where he and Ian and Bella, we all pick our top number 5 for the 5th anniversary tracks on each official release. Stephen, are you on social media?
Nope. You can't find me anywhere.
All right. So if you want to give Stephen feedback, email me and I will get it to him. Donna, how about you?
I appreciate Stephen's lack of
Yes.
social media. I wish I could be sometimes. You can find me, actually, the website is brucefunds.org. That's BRUCEFUNDS.org. And there's links on there to find me on Instagram.
All right. Chris,
Twitter.
Stephen, Donna, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again in October when we have a new album to discuss. So, but for now, listeners, take care of yourself. Stay safe.
It would be an honor.
Wash your hands. Remember your social. Wear an effing mask, as the man said. And remember, we love you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So.